Riptide GP2, as the name suggests, is a sequel to an Android title from 2011, though this time it's also available on the Xbox One for the price of $5. Visually, you may immediately notice a similarity in the graphical style of this to the 2010 Xbox Live Arcade hit Hydro Thunder Hurricane. This is appropriate, as Vector Unit is the developer behind both games. There are some stark differences, primarily the fact that Riptide GP2 involves the usage and racing of futuristic jet skis, as opposed to full-size boats. The effect this has on gameplay is somewhat minimal, though allows for the integration of tricks, which is a core aspect to Riptide's gameplay that I'll get to shortly. Though I don't consider it a disadvantage or even a negative feature, Riptide GP2 is an extremely simplistic racing game. Control-wise, there is a gas button, a brake, boost, steering, and tricks using the thumbsticks. While I consider myself fairly talented in the genre, I rarely had issues with the game outside of a few bizarre difficulty spikes that come from what I can only think of as artificial difficulty. The first several races the game offers are hard to lose and straightforward. Every time you finish a career race, whether getting in first place or last, you receive some amount of experience and money. Experience points level up your profile, giving skill points that can be used to redeem on new tricks or a small handful of perks. These perks are something of a no-brainer, as receiving a permanent bonus to the amount of boost you generate or the ability to complete a trick faster is objectively helpful. That said, tricks are necessary for being able to complete missions, specifically the freestyle events in the career that give points based on the trick performed in a short 60-second race. Reusing the same trick lessens the points received, so a variety of moves is completely necessary to acquire first place. Money, on the other hand, is used to purchase new jet skis or upgrade ones you already own. This is something of a linear progression, and I have to question some of the design choices that were made. The first several watercrafts available end up having similar stats if you were to completely upgrade them. This led me to saving up my money early on in order to buy a more expensive and far better jet ski. This was around the same time that missions became exceedingly difficult and it was harder to attain a podium finish. Naturally, grinding was required, and I found that replaying one or two missions repeatedly was the best course of action. Upon acquiring this more expensive craft, the game's difficulty plummeted, and I was winning most races on my first attempt. This may sound as if I cheated or made things too easy on myself, but looking back I don't see much of an alternative. The amount of money received per race is far too little early on compared to the prices of upgrades and new jet skis. Something would need adjusted numbers-wise to make this avoidable. Really, the best course of action is to immediately save up for a high-quality jet ski and not bother with the others, since the stats are the only important aspect. In standard races, performing tricks grants the player additional boost. Towards the beginning, this hardly affects gameplay outside of small speed boosts, but late game this results in the player being able to speedily boost from ramp to ramp, performing boosts consistently and hardly ever slowing down. It's a nice gameplay progression compared to where things start off, it just takes several hours to reach this point. Riptide GP2 has 63 events in the career mode grouped into different tiers dispersed over 13 different stages to race on. It's a good amount of actual events with a fair amount of variety, consisting of standard races, the aforementioned freestyle events, elimination races, and hot laps, which act as slightly more difficult time trials. Now, a potential problem with this method of progression is the artificial difficulty. During events, the opposing AI tend to have better vehicles than you will at the time. Some races can be won through skill or luck, but at some point this runs out and races are blatantly impossible with certain setups. This is why I opted to save up my in-game money, as to avoid wasting time replaying levels I clearly should give up on. This is not a balanced game, and this could be the reason online multiplayer is not available. 8-player local split screen is impressive, though not something I can realistically do. Other aspects of gameplay include local time trials that exist for bragging rights, though there seems to be nothing in the form of ghost data or even an online leaderboard outside of players on your friends list. The ability to change your watercraft's color scheme exists, which is a nice touch, especially as some of the colors seem reminiscent of Jet Moto. The music is also somewhat subjective, as only a few in-game tracks exist, all of which are electronic, and all of which are rather short, resulting in a feeling of repetition as you find yourself hearing the same music on the same stage over and over again. Riptide GP2 is a fine game. It's cheap and offers around 10 hours of gameplay. Unfortunately, by all accounts, it's just fine. The water physics and handling are solid outside of some minor bugs, but at the end of the day, it's a standard single-player racing game. If you enjoyed Hydro Thunder Hurricane, I opt to try this as well, but if you haven't, that may be the better game to purchase.